which person would you prefer to discuss your career and development with?
Yes.
Why would it have to be my manager? Who says that he or she is the person to inspire me at this point of my life?
Yeah.
Um,
So is that
yeah.
normal that you would kind of break that in? So if I'm a person in this organization, I have three roles. I assume you would have a circle that is a sales circle. I assume you would have somebody that's accountable for like how does that work? So performance management in a setup like that, how does that work? I assume you would add from a top line, you would like you from a top part of the company, you would say, okay, we need to grow the company. We have a
Hmm.
strategy that has to be anchored somewhere, right?
Hmm.
In some sort of management team or somebody who kind of decides that. How and then that turns into uh, I understand sales really deeply. So let's take it from a sales perspective. Then you would have like a sales circle. You have a lot of roles. You have a lot of people. You have some resources in that team. How would you handle performance management? How would you? Who owns that we're actually reaching and doing our things?
As a starting point, the team does
Yeah.
in this type of more self or co-led organization. So the team does. The team has a purpose that they set, but there is a role in the team that would be like a purpose guardian. Say, is what we're doing aligned with what we're put here to do, which is to reach this number. Uh,
Let me rephrase
yeah.
actually. I'm sorry. So you have this person, I'm an individual in a sales team. I can pick my own kind of growth mentor or business mentor. I assume there's somebody following up on whether or not I am not just growing, but I'm creating value for the company. And if I hold,
Hmm.
is that defined in the roles then? So if I have like, let's say I have a role that is, I'm a account manager role. I hold that role in the company. Is that then tied up to a certain level of performance in that role that I have to live up to some expectations? Do you build that into the role, or how does that work
Mm.
in a setup like this?
So you're thinking in terms of KPIs or things that you have to
Yeah,
reach.
I assume that you have. So here's where what it comes back to for me. I remember when I hired our first sales managers, and then
Hmm.
I thought about how do I. It actually started out we had an employee that didn't work out, so it was
Hmm.
like okay, this person that is not working, and then how do I explain? How do I build a great process for a new manager to say, how do you manage the process, the process of letting somebody go? And then I was
Mm.
like, you have to be able to tell somebody, hey, you're not living up to expectations.
Mm.
This is the expectations. You are here. There's a gap. And the way
Hmm.
I've always managed it is to say, um, you give a warning, of course, of saying, hey, you're not where we need you to be. You're not successfully fulfilling this role, and you need to. That's like
Mm.
that's why you're here. And then you do like a plan of saying, can we get you up here? And then
Mm.
we agree that over a certain period of time, if we cannot close this gap, it fundamentally means you, the person, you're not a great fit for this role and you need to hold a different role. Then either A, we can
Mm.
move the person to another role in the company, or if you don't have another role for this person, they have to leave the company. You have to let them go, right?
Mm. Mm.
But what it came back to is in order to have this, I need to define this. I need to define the success criteria. And I need to define what does success look like. And that made me go back to saying, what is success in so
Mm.
for us in the sales team, there's two parameters. There's a performance part, which is for a salesperson to be successful, they have to increase revenue. That's just like the role of the job. Marketing person has to do
Yeah.
better marketing. Programmer has to do quality code. So that's a part of it. And then in our company, you have a personal part of it as well. So there's a lot about you give quality feedback. You're passionate about your colleagues. There's a
Mm.
lot of
Mm.
personal
Mm.
stuff
Mm.
that we add in as well. My question to this is I, as a manager now, I hold those roles. So I have that kind of tree of roles, and then I can use that to talk to my managers of saying, you're now at this role, which means we have these expectations from a personal standpoint. We have some performance expectation. On performance, you're really high. On here, you're really low, or wherever it is. That you can then go back to both have performance conversations, but also if you need to let somebody go and they're not performing, you can have that kind of transparent conversation. So that was a very long question to basically say,
Yeah.
I assume that information must live in this hierarchy as well. And where is it put? Is it owned by a manager? Or is it owned in these micro roles? Is it kind of built into the roles? And then how do you, let's say somebody have 5 roles.
Hmm.
Is it the same kind of setup you have? I mean, how do you do performance management in a setup like that?
Mm. Again, going back to it being in the team. So
Yes.
are we as a team reaching our goals? And we have a more transparent, more open discussion about this in the team. But we will still check in on our goals. Uh, and I'm not saying it's easy
No.
because you will have there might be a person who's not performing in the team, and then we as a team have to talk about that openly. So it becomes not me and my manager, but me and my team. So I'm accountable to my team. I'm not accountable to my
Interesting.
manager. And it requires much more of an adult relationship, um, which you can also have with a great manager. And I truly believe with what I'm hearing you say, Robert, that's what's happening in your team. But we also see a lot of managers where it becomes more of like a parent-child kind of, I'm
Yes, yes,
telling
yes.
you what
The
to do.
mommying, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, and I know that there are also organizations where there are a lot of young people. They're still learning and being trained, etc. But they're still adults, they're still managing their own lives.
Mm,
So we should expect people to come in there with that, accountability uh, of saying to a team, we will do this together. And if I'm not performing, then maybe, I should try out some different roles that fit me better. And it's less threatening to suggest this person to maybe try out some other roles because you can design your own job easier more easily. It's not like if you're not performing in this role, then you're out of here,
mm,
right?
yes.
Because you have this more granular
Yeah, you
way
can
of
take
thinking.
out of the 5 roles, you can leave one, leave two, and then pick
Yeah,
up some other stuff.
yeah, yeah,
Could you then theoretically end up in a situation where you have somebody on a sales team that is not really functioning and are suggested, hey, maybe you should leave these 2 roles because it seems like you're not doing it? And then
yeah.
they pick up like an operational role and a marketing role. Would they then have to be in like 3 team meetings or 3 team setups where they would be responsible for?
I understand your questions. Uh, Again, it depends on the structure that you've created. If you can you is this a kind of organization where you can have roles in different
Do that.
teams, or isn't it?